So I'm going to do this talk, and I want to rotate the screen around, but I'm not sure it's going to do it. So I might have to put this on the computer afterwards. But it's better to record it on my phone because I don't have a microphone and computer anyway. So I don't really know what talks have been done on the Book of Kells. There likely haven't been many talks of this nature on it. I'll search tomorrow and see what books there are talking about these pictures, but I don't think they go around the same type of conversation that this talk's going to go in. You see, for something like this, you really want to get certain people together, and as Howard Crower says, it's not usually polite to go onto this subject, It's not usually the subject that people go on to and talk about openly on videos for certain, let's say, taboo reasons. Now, the thing is, when you're actually discussing the history of the islands and the prehistory and the ancient sites and the ancient religions and the ancient people, and if you're going to do any discussion at all, and want to try and make sense of it all, what does it mean? You need to, be, usually, if you're going to do a talk, you're interested in it. And usually, if you do a talk, you at least do know something, or else you won't be interested in it. Because when you're interested in things, you learn things, and you like things, and that's why you do it. But usually people have a certain specialisation or a strong point in their focus and study. For example, some people might have been to every single site or nearly every single ancient site, and they might know them off by name, and they might know the configurations of them and lots of different names for things there and stuff like that, and they might know what, dates it was excavated and this and that. That's all good. And, when you start looking at ancient sites, particularly ones that have got anything to do with life and death and burials, the furthest that we can go back, and, well, not the furthest we can go back, but, a reasonable amount of time into prehistory that we can go back, which I like to think of as a key example, if we take into account that it's legitimate, is the Algerian stuff. And I said this in one of the other videos previously, because they've got, actually that's a good video that I need to put the link on that, because I show you it. I'll put the link for this video. I love this video, it's absolutely brilliant. There are other videos, but this one shows some key Algerian places. Now, there is a actual burial, a very primitive burial mound in Algeria, and it's very, very, very evocative of, and I don't think it can be ignored to be connected, if it being legitimate, if it is from, when it's claimed to be from, of the beginning of, or a period near the start of these burying people with a mound of earth over it, and it actually does have shapes round it, funnily enough, that do make the kind of sort of mushroomy sort of shape always seems to pop up. Or even, for the sun and moon solar motions of the divine astral bodies, So, now the thing with Algeria is, besides those mounds, the other sites they've got in Algeria are the active sites where people were alive and living. So, they're doing, we know they were alive and living because they're drawing on the rock art. You can't draw on the rock art when you're dead. So they're alive and moving around and enjoying a lot of their experiences. Now we've got actual scenes. We've got scenes they're drawing which are from their immediate landscape, and they're not stickman symbolic drawings that are, when you're getting into letters, mean, you know, like Algeria suggests algebra, which is the, you know, like you substitute a thing for a number. So, you know, elephants, you know, so if elephants equals 1, what is, you know, and if tigers is 7, what is elephant plus tiger? Then it's 8, you know, whatever. So when they're actually making these impressions on the face of the rock art, they're actually just copying what they see through their eyes onto the art. Now, some people suggest that as consciousness evolves and develops, you actually can, when you look at things anyway, you see faces and things, because, you know, when you've got your parents staring down at you when you're a baby, you pick faces out of the pixels that make up your environment, and it's one thing that's ingrained into his nature. You know, you could do an entire video about that. So, you know, sometimes you can see, some people aren't very good at drawing, you know, sometimes you can look at a wall and the shading and cracks and make a nice picture of like a deer or something, and it's quite a good picture of a deer, and even if you want to try and draw a deer, you might not even be able to make one as good as what you can see on the shading of the thing. So that's how, that's all. There's an entire field of study in light and shade in the visual thing. And it's funny that when you take some of these psychedelics, it ends up, you get this light and dark play, and you go into that, it opens up the doorway for it. You know, it's almost as if it, you know, it's part and parcel of it. At least light experiences, you know. So, but you also get this animated effect as well. That you've got this, right from the dawn of consciousness, from the dawn of primitive visual field, you've got this kind of animation thing that jumps about anyway. I mean, what is seeing something anyway? At the end of the day, watching somebody walk past, it is an animation because it's happening in the back of your retina. You know, it's something was in that position, then it was in the other, and then it was in the other. So when you're getting down looking at not a real person walking past, when you're looking like a crack on a wall, or, you know, like a shading on a wall, and then the light, if you got a flickering candle or whatever, or just your own you got those triangles, whatever you call them, that make up your vision, but, you know, whatever, all your different aspects to it can animate anything from, you know, a couple of dots that look like ants crawling around to you know, characters in a scene. This really, cartoon, I mean, this is where cartoons were developed and imagined and inspired from, really. And then you got a little Fantasia thing, you know, Walt Disney with Mickey Mouse and that, you know. So, you know, it has an origin in the normal consciousness anyway. Now, so those walls that they had in Algeria when they're doing, and a lot of them have got strange things exploring the senses. How do I see what is in front of me? Okay, so if I put my hands over my eyes, I can't see anything. And if I take my hand off, then I can see something. If I hold my nose, I can't smell. If I put hands over my mouth, I can't speak. I've got these organs, these things on my physical body which interact with the world, and which things emanate from them, or things arrive into them, senses. Now, if you look at a lot of the Algerian artwork, when you've got, some people say that they're aliens flying around or whatever, you know, with space helmets on, but what a lot of those pictures and artwork are, I'd like to put some up on the screen now. If I was doing a really, really good job on making the video, like someone who makes good videos like 32. That 32 guy, now he really makes an effort to make videos, but I ain't got the time. I just need to get the data down in the video and just throw it up, because it's just evidence that I'm attaching to try and, you know, I've got save this ancient site and prove that it's important and that it has to be protected, and why was this site important and what was going on at this site in our area. So I need to collect the evidence. So I've just got to try and kind of get it in there. As I ain't got the time to make a pretty channel and pretty videos. It's not high on the agenda list, but I can explain this. So I'm gonna. So yeah, so a lot of those pictures at Algeria with the characters, if you look at them, a lot of them have got these openings or outlets or strange things around the body, and I strongly believe that it's clear, to me it's clear anyway, that they are the expressions and let's call it art. The art is an expression and it is symbology and meaning, and they're exploring, putting down how they say, well, what am I, and what is this around me, and I've got these things, and it's almost like if you think of an octopus, an octopus has got this, they have this eye, and it's meant to be like very close to the human eye from all the other animals, and tentacles, it's almost like what would an octopus do? It's exploring its, what the essence of what it is. It's, oh my god, I'm a tentacle creature. So it's like there's, oh my god, I'm something that I am a thing that can, light comes into me, and and I can sense all these other things. And if you look at them, it's quite evident that that's what's happening. And then there's some when they're putting weight on and losing weight, they've got ripples, and then to do with eating animals, and there's a force that drives you to eat. You've got this instinctive biological nature to eat, because if you don't eat, you will die. And sometimes you don't want to eat, but you just can't help yourself, and there's a lot of that coming through on some of those paintings that they were reflecting on and aware of that. But then we've got the ones, if they are legitimate or not, and if Aleister Crowley or someone didn't go into the middle of the desert and paint it, or Mountbatten or someone, or Hitler when he was doing his crazy wacky searching for the he was apparently a fanatic on the arcane and the occult or whatever. We don't know for sure if Hitler didn't go into the desert and draw loads of mad pictures to mislead people or what. I'm very, very skeptical about a lot of things now, like the cauldron, just because of what's on it and the date it was found, and what was going on. There was all these telephone lines being fitted, and there's just so many pictures on there that kind of like evocative of things that when I look what was happening around that time, it's like, oh, there's all these things happening, and then it's like on the cauldron, I'm like, is it coincidence, or is it evidence that it might have been planted or not? But as long as when I think that it's possible to say, what I'd do if I was writing about the cauldron is that, these are what the chemical tests say on it, and this is what it says, and I would just put a note on there. I'd say, but some people speculate, it could have been fake because of, telephone lines being fitted into police chiefs' houses, and, this and that happening, and, the speckled bands, and Sherlock Holmes stories popping up with speckled bands and stuff, and, just worth noting on there, why not add more information, say, there's some people say there's a case that it's fake, and other people say there's hard evidence that it's not. Why not say, if you think that there's a case for it, if you want to call it, then I'd put it on there, all the information for and all the information against. Isn't the best case presented to a court the one that has the best case for and the best case against, which is as much information as you can put in from all views, so I think. So yeah, what was getting? So yeah, the one that's on the Terence McKenna book, the famous picture. So that's clearly got it gestures at psychedelics involved in the whole thing, and that is an Algerian picture, and the places. So getting back on track a bit now, the places they went to with these big kind of walls that went up and over the top and were sheltered, you know, I don't know whether it's shelter from wind or rain or just from the sun, or when, you know, they went, maybe that's clearly if it's legitimate and it's from that time and it's that's what they're eating and taking and getting the visions, then that's probably where the art comes out of, you know. So they did like to go to places that actually were sheltered, or maybe they felt right, you know. And obviously, if you ain't got a wall, you can't draw anything at the end of the day, can you? So, you know, you're not going to be, unless you just want to draw it on a tree or, you know, do stones on the floor, which is what they've ended up doing with those burial things. They put stones on the floor, you know. Why not decorate it and make it look, you know, kind of pretty, you know. So, not just to protect it. Yeah, so I think having a shelter does... obviously, it goes right back to, you know, these very early experiences. We don't know if they were still... You see, before they even got onto those grasslands, when the Sahara, you know, was grasslands, even going back up into the trees, if you take it back, it's probably likely that it was something like going on in South America anyway, with twigs and leaves, you know, because that's going to happen, isn't it? I mean, what I think is that those shamans in South America who've got the ayahuasca, you know, even though they say that, you know, there are other things available, but claim they didn't take them, but, you know, that's, I think they did. But if you're going to... I think they were nibbling on different stuff and eating certain things, you know, probably in the trees and getting certain visions. Animals probably maybe do, you know. We don't know because we're not in them, you know. But there's probably a bit of a crossover, really, you know, when you switch from one to the other, or and they ended up getting onto that. So when we start coming onto the other sites, the other burials, obviously the burials are going to get more bigger and elaborate, but the places that they're going to go for the rituals and to do the artwork and have the visions are going to get more elaborate and larger as well, obviously. Now, at some point, you get to the stage when you're having the psychedelics, where it's not just having a little bit of a, you know, light trip journey. You're going, you know, you're out of your out of body experiences, and you know, off the planet, you know. So there is you're going on serious journeys and stuff, and then there's a lot of other things to do with it, which is relevant to that experience. And, you know, it is like what Robert Carr is a specialist in, which is studying now, and those subjects are psychology, religion, sociology, everything like that. And the reason is because it puts you in different states, social states and spiritual states, to reflect on things and examine what it is to be a human being and the world around you, you know. And obviously you can't concentrate on the outside world too much when you know, switched on the inside world, and vice versa. So I think that it's important to note that there is this, you know, aspect to it of there are spirits and there are intelligences that present themselves. This is what Dennis and Terence McKenna talk about, you know, and Jonathan Ott and people like that. There is an intelligence that presents itself. Now, I think that if you've got people around you passing away and dying, you know, naturally because of old age, you know, and when you're burying them and things like that. I mean, if you're dreaming about people in a normal dream, not like a psychedelic experience, you know, like bears dream anyway. If you're having dreams about things or people, or thinking about them, or if you are having a psychedelic experience and you've got a you've got a consciousness that presents itself, why, it would be quite easy to think it was, the ancestor or the spirit of the ancestor, particularly if you've been out of your body yourself and you've known that you can be conscious when you're not in the state of walking around in your human body, and you can even kind of project astrally and do things like that, then surely if one of the animated bodies who happens to be your family or friends or in the social group around you dies, then maybe that their consciousness or whatever as also is just because the physical body's dead, it might be there. And if there is a consciousness presenting itself in these experiences, it might be them, But then you go into the whole interpersonal psychology and communication. You get into other fields which we do have now in professional organisations and institutions, which is studying the field of like things like telepathy and other psychic forces and things like that. And actually someone in one of the Facebook groups, I think it was Extinction Rebellion group, he told me the name of that field of study, and he said that it's been proved and they've even got the wavelengths for it and stuff like that. I've had mobile phones, send text messages on the old ones that were really strong, and they used to make part my brain kind of like vibrate or whatever. I used to know a text message were coming through before the phone beeped. That's when mobile phones were probably worse now, I'd be surprised if that's what's causing everyone to get stressed out. That's why they were complaining about that 5G, But there are so many fields now. We've got professionals' fields for it all. But what are those scientists telling us? Unless you go read the special paper that they've written about it, you've got to know that their field exists, you've got to know the institutions who are specialising in it, you've got to know where the papers are published, then you've got to go read them, then you've got to translate their fancy show-off language that tries to make it aloof and kind of a little bit, purposely complicated so, the layman can't understand it, their little private little information file or whatever. Unless you're a really cool sort of down-to-earth type person who can communicate it, properly and wants you to understand it. I think it's like mathematicians talking about algebra. It always seems to be that ridiculous math formula are not very easy to understand. But what I find out is when someone explains it to me properly in a proper language, and doesn't put these abbreviated short terms down, I kind of understand it when they tell me how to do it. It's actually it's the algebra itself, the notation style you've got to learn of the symbols, that it ends up being like Egyptian or something, When you know what it means and what you've got to do with it, I'd rather them write it down really, really, really long and not have these stupid symbols, and pi and this and that. Because I'm the sort of person where if you just write it down and said, okay, with this you take this away from that and then times it by this, and it's like put the stupid scrawling on the wall, like, what the fuck's that, Oh, well, you've got to know that, well, that's, the square root of blah, 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 whatever. Right, well, it's like they've made up their own. Really, they say maths is not the strongest. There's not a lot of people who do high-level maths. And I think that they've kind of created their own language in a way that makes it difficult for people to understand it. It's almost like they actually have got their own little language, and you've got to learn that language first and know what everything means. And then once you really remember and have a good memory to know what you have to do with this and what you have to do with that, then all you have to do is crack the calculator out and then just you're away then, aren't you? It's like language, isn't it? Language is another thing. But the thing with the psychedelic experience is it is words and sonic phonetics is what language comes out of. It is, at the end of the day, it all goes back to these root pictorial, because animals use gestures to communicate and calls and sounds. You can watch David Attenborough and he goes out with experiments with all these playing bird tunes backwards and forwards and reverse and all this and that, But, when if you can read an animal, truly read an animal, there's a video of this guy who's photographer on the internet, and I got really annoyed with him because he was saying that this moose or this deer was being really aggressive with him, and it wasn't at all. He was sat on the floor. A professional photographer wanted to get photos of it, and he got out of his car and he was sat near it, and it was just really curious about him, this deer. And and then he was like saying, "Oh, this deer was like, reckoning he was this like brave photographer." And this deer was just like, what's this guy doing sat in the road? And he was just checking him out and having a look at him. And you know what deers do, play with each other. And I think he just couldn't. Well, it was just lying. It was just saying that it was doing all these things, and then it was just total, and I'm just looking at it, and I'm like, that's what what am I doing now? I'm reading what is before me. Read the scene, what's going on, and he's just this innocent animal. He's just like checking him out, and then he's sat there firing off all these photos, and then he starts complaining that it's kind of like having a little spar with him. That's what those creatures do with each other, Talking about that, if I turn this picture to the right hand side now, it's done it. Actually, no, I need to say, on the editing thing, when I put it on the computer, I'll turn it to the right hand side, and then you've got the deer antlers on this thing, you've got the stag horns, but I have to do that afterwards. Animals communicate in gestures, Can you tell if the animal is a bit annoyed or a bit sad or unhappy by its body movements and expressions and stuff like that? Through its the movement, expression and movement. This is even why we have smileys, just symbols for different expressions and emotions. So before you even open your mouth and speak, you can have gestures. Now, when you have gestures, you can be sat there watching, looking at. Either you can be totally out of it and have your colours and patterns come up from nowhere, or you can see them on a wall. It doesn't really matter either which way. But then you say, well, are these animations and these characters, what legitimacy do they have? I mean, if a character presents itself and is like, doing a little gesture, whether it's some fairy character or whether it's like made from shadows or whether it just purely comes out of complete from the pixels itself or whatever, what legitimacy has it to be anything or mean anything? Well, you might as well say, what if I had an idea, right? Say, what are you gonna buy, your mum for Mother's Day, right? If you're gonna say, well, I'll think, and then you have an idea and it pops into your head, and you go, well, why should I get that? Where's it come from? It might be dangerous, it came from your mind, or it came from the environment. Can you trust the environment? But at the end of the day, if you're sat there, right, and what are you going to get from Mother's Day in the environment? At the end of the day, if you're in a desert, all you can even give from a present is, what can I think of, is what you can find. So, you've got a stick, a rock, a pretty rock, you can paint it with red ochre or whatever, a twig, a leaf, or, here's a village, here's somebody making cooking pork chops on a fire, it's Mark Parker Pearson. I could get her a pork chop. Or there's some guy making spears, or I could get her a spear. But then at the end of the day, how can you trust these characters that you've come across in the environment? Where did they come from? Who are they? Should I be giving them pork chops? Should I be buying her a spear? That's like saying, I'm sat there in a cave looking at the wall, and there's some characters present themselves out of the pixels, pixies, and then one of them's going like this, pointing at, look, and now it looks like a stream, and it's pointing at the stream, and it's animated, and it's going, go to the stream for a fish, go to the stream for a fish, and then, there's another character here saying, no, it's dancing, and it's animated, it's dancing, no, dance, dexercise, do some dancing, and you're like, I don't know what to trust. Shall I go get some fish and eat fish, or go dance? Well, what if I shouldn't be eating fish, but I'm hungry? So, maybe that's my intellectual capacity in my mind, biological thing saying go eat, and it's reflecting on the wall, but how does that come to be, Well, do I need to actually see anything like that to be hungry, Can't I just have this urge to, like, I just feel I need to do something, I feel I need to do something, I don't know what I need to do, you know, I feel I need to do something. Well, at the end of the day, right, if you haven't eaten anything for 2 or 3 weeks, and then you start getting weak, I know what happens when you don't eat anything for 3 weeks or whatever, how many long, and you start getting lightheaded. That's because, you know, I'm running out of fuel and I'm going to die. And what happens when you run out of fuel and you're going to die is you go lightheaded, and all the pixels start coming up and you have an out-of-body experience. So, you know, you might not have the strength to go get something to eat, you know, you might not have the strength to stand up. So it's like you got this, you know, this is where the urge comes from. Have you ever felt, you know, why am I doing this? Why am I going to the fridge and just picking this up and putting it in my mouth, yeah? It's, you know, it's an automated thing, you know. But usually, if there's no fridge there, then you can't go to the fridge, you know. But sometimes you get into the habit of going to the fridge just because it's there, you know, because you're bored. Boredom, you know. If you sat there on board and I want to do something, you know, once you're enthralled in doing something, like I'm doing this talk now, I'm not going to the fridge and getting a bottle of milk or eating a biscuit, am I? Because I'm doing this. And sometimes you can be doing something all day and you're like, oh, and eating all day. Well, why is that? Because I've been busy, you know? So there are all these different, like when you need to go for a wee, it's just an urge, isn't it? I mean, it's going to come out and you're just going to do it there and then, but you know in your mind what it is and what it's going to do and that it's going to make a mess in your pants. So you need to go to a place where it's convenient to do it, where it's not going to make a mess. So you've just got to go there. I've got to go there, you know? You've got to get to that place where it's going to happen. You know what I mean? That's an inherent drive to go somewhere, you know, and that's through, it's a combination of the memory where you know where you're going to go, because at the end of the day, if you haven't got any clothes on, right, if you don't have any clothes on, and if you're not in a house, you're just out in a field, and you're knelt on the floor, and you're not going to, you're not going to wee in your best jeans, and if you don't need to go to an actual toilet for that urge, you know, and if you just knelt there in the middle of a field, then let it go, you know, like just let it go, I'm going to eat, and then, you know, you've seen cows stood there in a field, like, psh, psh, just let it go, you know, it just drops out, doesn't it, you know, there's another pat on the head, or whatever, you know, so, could tilt this sideways again and put it back in there, so, you know, and that, to be honest, that's what happens when you have the ayahuasca, you know, when you have the ayahuasca, and it strips down all the importance of, you know, the cinema and the social things, the television, the computer, and you strip back down to the animal, and then suddenly, you know, you just, you know, just lay it out there, and then, you know, nothing matters, you know. You have to clean it up after. So this is what you're studying while you're using these things, you know, all these separate automated systems that you have that construct who you are as a human, and you get to, you know, think about it and reflect on it, you know, and how important it is and what it means to you in life, you know, and you know, obviously, if you're a deep person and you're a contemplative person and someone who thinks about things a lot, that is a valuable experience. But to someone who isn't really wanting to look at their bad points and how they could make themselves a better person, who doesn't really care about other people, or, you know, some people even self-harm themselves, you know. Some people think that that's self-harm, but some people don't get much out of these experiences, you know. It's just, it's just fun, and, trippy colours, let's take some trips and have some trippy colours. But you'll find that they probably have reflected and learned something in it, but they're probably just not that bothered about talking about it, you know. So, but also through these projections and animations and illuminations, there are lots of, it explores the symbolic format of communication, and it can be animated or not. And then you can also have, when you have meaning for one thing, it tends to present another meaning, an alternate meaning, just because that's the nature of things. You're getting into Brian Cox and, you know, how even leptons and protons and neutrons, what do they comprise of, and what's there when you strip them down. It's like a triangle. It's a triangle, but it's three sticks, you know, it's three sides, even. It's three sides. When you look at it, what is it? It's three sides, but it's also a triangle, From nothing comes something. And this is the nature of the, like, you got the Father and the Son and the Holy Spirit, the expressions. The thing is, when you've got like a positive and a negative, right? Like you've got positive and negative on a battery, and then the battery is actually, if you don't have something, right? If you create, like lightning, where's it come from? Well, it goes from the positive to negative, doesn't it? And it makes the line, it makes the energy. But when it's off, it's gone, right? So it's almost drawn out of nowhere, and you've got this collapse almost. It's like, it collapses into nothing, and then when it comes back in, you've got the thing. It's like the top and bottom of the apple. It's like, it's from nothing comes something. So, but once you've got something, then you've got all things, because once you've got the apple, right, then it's got a colour to it. So it's not only, it's got a shape, it's got a size, it's got volume. Then you can start measuring into that volume and adding measurements into it and more detail. And it's got seeds in it, and it's got colour. And then it's almost multiplying in meaning. And then you've got more words that can describe it. We've got more and more words. Then we've got size, we've got length, we've got shape. You can't have length if there's nothing there. As soon as you've got something from nothing, then you've got a length, because where does it start and where does it finish? And then we're going to name all the increments in between. There are no increments. It's just, unless I want them to be increments, because I want to put my finger somewhere and say, what's that? Well, it's halfway. If it's halfway, then I've created something. Once you've got something, then things create out of it of themselves. So it's sort of like this sort of, that's the thing with language and meaning. So when you've got these shapes doing things, but then you might say, well, I didn't get them from psychedelic experience. I was just born. Well, birth is a psychedelic experience in a way, because all the senses that form your experience of what it is like to wake up on a morning, few of us can remember, because when you're born and you're the baby, it has to be calibrated, and it comes, vision comes into focus, and what you feel with this experience when you go into the really far out one is it's very familiar with you, familiar, like it, or you've been there before. This kind of alien force or being, alien being something other than normal, and then it is that it was, what you were before you came into the world, or what there was, and it is, in fact, the kind of, the being stripped back down, really, into to your material components, and like in James Bond, he's in Dr. No's lair and he says minerals pretending they're whales. What am I? Just water and oxygen and chemicals and blood, So, when you're watching from the birth as a child, once you're formed, and then because all when you're watching your parents peering into your pram are just going to be pixels and obviously blur and all that until it's clear, and then you're watching you're not watching an animation or a pixel screen, you're watching what is your reality in the human experience. These are the motions in front of me that I'm familiar with, because that's my mother and that's my father, and then observation on what you eat, and then you've got all this, biological inherent knowledge and kind of instinct reaction, which is like if you walk towards an animal and it backs away a bit, it's not too sure what you're going to do to it. These are instinct movement, action and reaction, and humans, we are the most imprintable. Animals learn a certain amount from the parents and copying, following and copying, and not making observations. That's what it is, making observations. But they're familiar with each other, and we are ready, primed to be imprinted with language and sounds and remember it more. We see a human can't really survive without another human because we are now a larger percent imprintable and to a less extent instinctual, although we do have a lot of ancestral memories, you'll find, but a lot of us are very imprintable, and that's why it's very dangerous now to be in this environment with all the media, with all the news, with all the schools, with Nicola Sturgeon saying, tell us your secrets, that's what Neil Oliver's, talking about. The Scottish government want to take over the children, but then they're the ones who are building them McDonald's and cinemas and ice creams and makeup pageants and fast food takeaways. Who's more dangerous? The Scottish. Then they say the parents are like Rabsy Nesbitt and or whatever, and not work. These parents aren't responsible. The Scottish government should be advising the children and bringing them up. But yeah, what are they doing? Letting them build McDonald's and filling them up with crap food because they're making loads of money out of them. Which is bad. Very not bad parenting. It's bad governmenting. Because they don't want the parents to tell the kids what to do and who to vote for, and that's what Neil Oliver's kind of worried about. They're trying to get the children to be kind of brought up as Tories or SNP or whatever from school, with certain views and stuff. And that's what the government ultimately want now. They've got the power, they've got the broadcasting, and they've got the attention to the screens more, as 50% as much as to the other friends and stuff. And they're wanting to use that very imprintable human consciousness, and they're wanting to get it imprinted to do what the rulers of the world want us to do, which is, be dominated by social media. Mark Zuckerberg wants to go further. Mark Zuckerberg wants his screen stuck over your eyes. He doesn't want, you to be in the mother's womb with your own genetic programming guiding you that your ancestors have spent millions of years or whatever evolving, learning instincts, who to trust, who not to trust, whatever. Mark Zuckerberg, wants to get you super imprintable, never mind learning language, oh, look, here we have a nice biological organism here, a human being, highly imprintable, get this stuck over his face, and Mark's the man to do it. He's the perfect, responsible, spiritual leader of this planet, Mark Zuckerberg. I would trust him with my right to petition because I can send as many I have the right to send as many Facebook Messenger messages, if it's for a petition, to as many people as I want in one day. And there is a Facebook group with 47,000 members, and I'll sit here for 24 hours and I will copy and paste that petition message to every single fucking one of them, and I have the right to ask them if they will sign that fucking petition, Mark. And if that petition says, do you want to ban Facebook from Russia, yes or no, then I can get them to fucking sign it, right? And if they want to sign it, you're not using my platform to do that. Well, I've got the right to. It's mail, isn't it? It's electronic mail. So I've got the right to do it. So I can, there's 3 million people there on Facebook. I'll ask them if we should ban Mark Zuckerberg from Russia. Oh no, Putin's already fucking done it. Well done. Nice one, Putin. I like it. Donald Trump might even like it as well. This is it. Sorry, kind of went off on a political tangent then, but kind of seemed appropriate given the timing. And that Putin actually has blocked Zuckerberg from Russia, which is funny. Putin's blocked Facebook from Russia. Oh man, that is so funny. Just so funny that he's blocked Zuckerberg from Russia. So, no, you can. How many messages can I send to? Hey, Mark, how many messages can you send to Russia, Mark? Mark, how many messages can you send to Russia today? You can send no messages. Mark, how many messages can you send to Russia today on Facebook? Mark, how many messages can you send to Russia? You can send no messages. You have had your account restricted. You can send no messages today, Mark, to Russia. Sorry. No, but really, I don't trust Zuckerberg with the Google Vision because, he's got issues on his platform. He's encouraging that there's no way to report administrators who are just, and the worst thing is, on Facebook groups, it says your group. Even though, it's not your group, it's someone else, it says your group, just remember it, It's all, the thing with Facebook is it's all political power, and it's, there are these platforms and you can do quite a lot with them, so governments have to put heavy restrictions on them, we know there's spam out there. We know there's spam, but it's quite easy to identify spam from spam, because, if it's a petition, it can't be spam. It's like money's not litter. Money's never litter. Whenever you drop money on the floor, it can never be litter because you can't destroy it. It's never a throw. It's never discarded or thrown away. It's always lost property. If you ever have money on the floor, right, it's you've lost it, right, because it's illegal to throw it away and destroy it. So litter can never be classed as being discarded and put in the bin, right? Because you can't put it in the bin, it's illegal. If you put money in the bin, it's going to be gone to destroy, to either landfill or, whatever, and then you can't do that, so it's illegal. You can't be, if it drops on the floor, it's still, and if it's your money, it's yours, Well, it's always property of the government, but it's somebody, it's still, it's credit on the floor. It's always in credit. That's a better way to say. The money's always in credit. It's always, so it's valuable. Litter's, not valuable unless it's recyclable. But you kind of going on to, I don't know, I've gone to talking about that now. But basically, you can't throw it away. So yeah, screens and eyes, that's what we're talking about. Yeah, I mean, the impressionability, the thing is this, right, there are certain responsible people, and unfortunately, there are people who have got responsibilities and maturity level in the world now, and people who aren't quite, don't have the caliber or capacity to be in responsible positions are getting into responsible positions mainly because certain people are letting them get into them because they're either able to influence them and manipulate them, and they've not got fair views. Like Priti Patel, she thinks that she's doing the right thing, but she's not. She is pointing the finger at other people and saying, sexist, racist, blah, 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 when she's going and taking away travellers' rights and their religion and their whole heritage and saying, what you're doing is wrong. But that's the heritage and that's the religion. It's the people's, it's what that legacy of peoples is doing, But yet when you go and say Australians, Aborigines, that's their religion, So what they're doing is picking and choosing. Or at the end of the day, Pretty Patel and Boris like this, we don't like that. And usually it's because it's not in line with what the Tories' conquer and dominate plan has. They don't like really Boris. The Tories aren't really. They don't really like English or British heritage. Really, they like and anything before 1066. They're not great fans of. They're not great fans of prehistory. If it's not, you see, firstly, the Archbishop of Canterbury and the Church, the Pope, they don't really want to talk about or go into the pagan stuff, the pre-Christianity stuff, where it all came from before there. But now they're meant to be these religions who accept all religions, like, oh yeah, the Christianity's got its arms open to the Buddhists and its arms open to the Hindus and this and that, But it's not true when certain forces have been actually attacking certain religions and cultures, particularly ones that aren't their own and ones that they've conquered and dominated. And now what we find is we're getting people coming into the country, from other countries like, India and the East, and they're bringing their religions and they're kind of like, saying, oh, we've got the right to have our religion. And we say, okay, then, we'll let you have the right to have it. We're not going to stop you from doing it. But then they want to build things on top and over our religion. So really what they're actually doing is they're saying, oh, we've got the right to have our religion, don't knock us through it. But then they start attacking our religion. Our religion is, we are people who say what we think and what we feel, right? And we think that that's the right thing to do, right? We don't say you can't say this or can't say that, because then you wouldn't be saying what you think and what you feel. Oh, we shouldn't be thinking and feeling that, we want to change it. Well, why don't we want to change you so you don't get upset about it and so it doesn't bother you? How about that? Then you've got a standoff then. You've got, all right, you want to change us so we don't say it. We want to change you so you don't mind us saying it, right? And then you've got the good, the bad and the ugly standoff. You've got it's like the end of, the good, the bad and the ugly, where there's three of them stood there, in the thing, with the music playing, And that's the problem with Boris Johnson and Pretty Patel. The fact that the problem with the Tories is anything, it doesn't matter what it is, whether it's, rights or whether it's sexist or racism or whether it's the stock market or money or whether it's the health service, whatever it takes to win, right? Whatever it takes to be victorious, to get the votes and to stay in government and to be in the position where they are telling you what to do and they are giving anything that they like. Donuts, like, makes me money, tastes nice in my mouth, like, right? Curry, smells good, tastes good, is good for the Indian culture, like, gets me some votes, like that, Boris, like a curry, like that. Gypsy travellers, oh, they've got their own religion, they've got their own culture, was here before, probably even Tory Party were even founded, goes way, way, way back into travelling and stopping on land, people who are in perpetual motion, and it's got its own style and fashion as well. I don't like that, don't vote for Tories, looks messy to my eyes, I don't like that, no, illegal, don't like that. So, at the end of the day, it's what you like and what you don't like, then, Boris, basically, isn't it? And, you've got the money and power to do it because, you made up a voting system whereas, even though 2/3 of people in England don't even vote for you, a couple of your buddies vote for you, and then, you're away. So, so that's the reason why we shouldn't have the Zuckerberg screen over his eyes, is because, it's, Boris gets to beam out his master plan to everyone. And, it's literally, kind of like, little kids get it, pick up the phone and then they've got the little, you know, the adverts, commercials, strategically designed CBeebies cartoon content, and all that, you know. Oh yeah, Bob the Builder. Can we fix it so we don't get opposed? Yes, we can. Can we fix it so you can't even object? Yes, we can. You know, Bob the Builder, can we fix it so you cannot investigate the planning notice that wasn't there? Yes, we can fix it like that, because now you've got no evidence, because you didn't know we were building, and now it's too late to get evidence. Can we fix it? Yes, we can. Because Boris has the master plan. The master plan. Bob the Builder, can we fix it to win? Yes, we can. It's like the Tory party. Tory party, can we fix the voting? Yes, we can. Because our entire empire has got the money to put out Tracy Brabin adverts all night the day before the mayor elections. Well, I was strategically placed. You know? So, you know, I don't trust Zuckerberg. And now, been talking for an hour, or 55 minutes, 58 seconds, and we're just going to massive play. I can't avoid it, because it's happening now. This is happening now, at this point in time, in this life, in this world. And I'm supposed to be doing a talk about this, but it involves... The reason that I got into talking about that is because of the phone screen in front of me with the imagery on it, which has been pumped into his consciousness, which these powerful people have control over. And, you know, it's... What I said is, like, the child is very, very impressionable, more so than ever before, more than animals are. And the government can take advantage out of that. And that's because of what Neil Oliver said. That's because of what Neil Oliver said on his programme. And I think he'll agree with me. And I think that's what he means. That's probably what he probably thinks himself, and he knows, because, you know, it is truth and fact, you know. And I'm just going into a bit more detail about it. That's why, you see, look, these psychedelics and drugs currently are not lawful anyway. They're illegal. Now, when we get on to why, you might as well say, well, when did they really become illegal? Or when did they become controlled? Was it actually when the law was started, or is there something before that? Well, yes, there was. Because the Celts, you know, we know that the people in Algeria were using them, and they're using them all the way through, like in South America. And then we got this... Something happened, right? And something happened, and the hands-on religious orders were stamped out. And it's to do with the advent of Christianity. Now, I am knocking Christianity, you know, it's got a certain set of, you know, sins and prayers and rules and this and that. But, you know, with the whole forgiveness thing, in theory, you know, if we're going to save us all from sins, in theory, it's quite good. Because, you know, there are quite a lot of bad sins now that are the cause of a lot of the greed and illness and all that. But the thing with Christianity is, it always seems to be that, you know, we're always forgiving the government, you know, or the government are always forgiven and never get prosecuted. You know, the ones in charge. But us, you know, we still, you know, we get fined. Well, you know, you know, we're still getting fined, you know. Well, can I be forgiven instead? You know, we're the ones who are getting... We're the ones who are not forgiven, and they're the ones who are forgiven. It seems to always... That deal seems to work good for them, but not for us, you know. Although there is that thing that, you know, if you fall out with everyone and never make up, then you don't end up having any friends. So in order to be in an imperfect world, you have to forgive, or else it's not going to work. I mean, if you kept falling out with if you didn't like the staircase, so never going to walk down that staircase again, you won't be able to get out of the door. And then if you fell out with the door, then you would never open it. And then if you fell out with the window, you'd never look out of it again. You know? So if you fell out with the world around you, then you won't be able to do anything. You see what I mean? So you've always got to forgive the door for being the door, and forgive the stairs for being the stairs, and forgive the window, or else, you know, you're not going to be able to interact and do anything. Unfortunately, that's actually what's happening now. They're building around us, they're flying planes over us, we've got cars going past all night. They're turning it into a hell, really. And the thing is, what they're wanting to do now is, and I know I'm supposed to be doing this talk on this thing, but it's coming out now, and it's better to get it said. I might as well record it on this and stick it on both websites. So, what's happening now is this, right? They need to make money out of us, and they're wanting to make more money. And people like, Rees-Mogg, who's wanting to strong economy and all this rubbish, right? So now they're wanting to put soundproofing on all the houses, right? It's convenient for them to carry on making building sites and carry on building houses around us to make more noise and carry planes all over us, right? So they're building houses all around us and packing them all in as much as they can, which is making the neighbourhood rubbish, but we can't oppose it because it's making money for the Tories and they want to make more progress, right? So to combat it, that's convenient for them. So we spend more money on their marketing tax by insulating, putting soundproofing around your house so you can't hear all that noise. And then when you open the door and do go out, it's absolute nightmare and hell around, and it's not a peaceful, quiet village. So then you go on holiday to get away from it, and then you're paying for the holidays. So literally, what Boris and Rees-Mogg, what the end game is for them is, if we create holy hell here, we'll make a fortune, because building hell is profitable. Building hell makes them millions. And then when we all fly to paradise to get away from hell, then they make another million. They're making another fortune. While they create their own little convenient bubble, like fucking Zuckerberg's fucking Florida retreat or whatever, or, Lisbeth's fucking palace, Sandringham, with a little fucking Blofeld cart driving round, whatever she's got now, they were saying on Talk Radio or whatever. Their own little perfect world bubble, or their underground bunker or whatever, or fucking, Baldy's fucking space station, whatever, Amazon in space or whatever, it's ridiculous. So it's just Jeff Bezos, they're getting all these fortunes and creating their own little, then it's the game show bubble. Oh, it's so boring now we've created hell around you that come to the game show. We can dazzle your eyes, watch the Philip Schofield spin the wheel. Woo! All flashing lights and fairground rides, it's the distraction from the hell. They don't let me entertain you, and that's the thing. These immature, selfish entertainers have got to grab your attention to make their social world so successful and make their world perfect. And all the worshippers of that wacky, crazy religion, whatever it is a fucking religion. It is a fucked up. It is a fucking demented. It's an absolutely fucking demented fucking religion, right? And someone needs to fucking do something about it. Because even Neil Oliver now is saying that, he's saying that the government are immature. The government are immature. He's saying the government are immature and playing child games. That entertainment fucking entire thing is fucking demented. It's a fucking demented fucking religion of absolute, just, he's fucked up. And that is the reason that people don't even want to try and sort out the problems we've got. Because that is the distraction from it, to try and forget about it. Well, it's not making it better. These people are not responsible. But they are literally kids with, it's like having kids in African villages with automatic weapons. Getting all these, I mean, Zuckerberg's getting all these a lot of people into social media, armies of foreign people into social media, when they don't understand us and our culture and religion, and now we are being attacked for being who we are, open and honest, right? Priti Patel wants it to be criminal and illegal. She's saying that my culture, my people, our genetic makeup and biology of being honest and open is criminal and insulting to her race of people who don't want to fucking hear it and want to block. Well, if they want to hear it and block, then they don't need to fucking prosecute us and make it an offence, do they? If they can block us, then they don't need to punish us. Why does Priti Patel need to pull the pants down and smack the hit with the fine? Punish. This is the whole thing with the Ministry of Justice, arcane, evil, medieval, witchcraft, fines and punishments, Why is fine makes some money, so they want to, if they don't like something you do, you owe me money for that. I don't like what you're doing. I'm offended, because in life, all I like to do is take your money off you through business, so I'll take some more money off you when you've done something I don't like. If you're not buying me cakes, right? I don't like it when you're not buying my cakes. That's illegal. I don't like this person not buying my cakes, so I'm going to make it a fucking offence. You have offended me by not buying my fucking cakes. Right, so if you want the cakes, it's 50 quid. And if you don't want the fucking cakes, then it's fucking 500 quid fine, you cunt. Essentially, it might sound stupid, but that's what they're doing. Anything in this world that they don't want you to do or don't like, then they want your fucking money. And if you're buying the stuff and giving them your money, they're happy. If you're not doing what they want you to do, what you like, then they want your fucking money. This is it. And then everyone's just annoying each other. Then at the end of the day, then all we need to do is get distracted by the game show, by the wacky game show, or go on the holiday, make some more money for them. It's just stupid, And this, what we're looking at now, is this psychological and spiritual key to understanding it. And I know that to some it may be chaotic, or it might even be disturbing, but that's because they're not the right type of people who should be having that experience or not interpret it properly, because it is valuable to the right people, right? And the thing is, that's why our ancestors did it. And it's part of the evolution of mankind. How did we even evolve to be in a... If animals can't take on that many impressions and can't absorb learning and knowledge, right, and are open to it, then how can you even be human? Obviously your capacity to absorb has increased, and actually you're reliant on it now. Human babies cannot survive without, being looked after by other humans. So it's now actually a dependency at infancy. It's dependent, So it's kind of scary to think that now these mobile phones are peering into cots, and rather than other human beings, it's almost now like it is getting scary. It's getting very, very. I'm really, really worried. And all Extinction Rebellion are doing is the environment. Oh, the planet's fucked, but they're not being successful because it's about people and relationships. Now, the Extinction Rebellion just happened to have a lot of people. Oh yeah, we've got a little posse, we've got a little army, Miami Beach. We've got a little group, yeah, but they're failing because they're having to go stamp their feet up and down in the streets, put windows through, do this and that, simply because, right, They don't actually understand that to save the environment, right, you need to actually be proficient and have the capacity to engage and succeed with the other human beings, right? Not block on the fucking Facebook groups or on YouTube or whatever. That doesn't get you anywhere, right? Because you might as well just fucking, what's the point of blocking people? They're supposed to be wanting to try and get people to save the planet. How you do that is engage with people, but what they haven't realised is what the government are doing is with these devices and with all these platforms is the government are using them. They're in control and power of them now, manipulating them, and they're actually not letting us come together and get together. In fact, they're giving us buttons. That button is almost like a failure button, because giving these buttons to block and block groups, break people up, is stopping people from coming together and then creating things to argue over. Look, right, put it this way, if there was only oranges, right, on the planet, right, we wouldn't need to argue about what to eat and what not to eat, because if there were only oranges there, that's all there fucking is. So there ain't no arguments only about how many oranges you have, right? Now, once you get too many different things, there's more things to argue about, particularly when some things aren't really that good for you, truly aren't good for you, right? So, it's like with this, it's like actually with the site here. Look at Uffington White Horse and Uffington Camp and Wayland Smithy. Everyone on that Ridgeway and Trackways group loves that place. There are 50,000 people, 52,000 people who absolutely love the Ridgeway. And they don't argue about it. They all love it and they all put photos of it there and they all go there, right? But why is it with our site that there's not 50,000 people who love it and who aren't arguing about it, right? You've got loads of people who are pissed off because there was a pub there that got pulled down and they want it back. Then there's another load of people who like this Jubilee Tower because God Save the Queen and all that, right? And they just want to go there and take photos of this tower. Oh, mind them, they're not even taking photos of the Queen, they're just taking photos of a tower. It's almost like it's like American flag. If we swear allegiance to the flag, you might as well just put a flagpole there at the end of the day and take a photo with a flag. Might as well just take a photo with a fucking Union Jack. What's the fucking point? Where's a flagpole? And then the other group who are, in the same opinion as me, are actually interested in the whole area, actually interested in the actual site itself and the whole town and its whole history. In fact, the whole history of everything. They're actually interested in, who are we, where did we come from, and what are we doing here? Not just who's going to win the next fucking, Huddersfield Giants game, So, we've got, someone's set things up so we're actually arguing with each other, rather than in agreement. But there are places that are in agreement. There are places that agree on stuff, but, it's like the church. Look at the church. The church is doing so brilliant. They've got everyone in the congregation. They've got it all set up. Everyone loves it until you get the Buddhists and the Hindus coming in and they go, oh, well, no, we don't believe in this Christian religion. Well, are they arguing about it? Well, they used to do, but now the Pope's going, oh, no, we welcome Buddhists and we welcome Hindus, but we don't welcome gypsy travellers. We're not having that religion in here. And you're not parking your fucking caravan outside on the lawn at Canterbury either. We're going to discriminate against that religion and those people because Boris Johnson is a complete and total hypocrite. And by the way, we'll have your kids, we'll have your children. We'll be educating your children for you, just like private school. It's like private school education, isn't it? I think that's actually what it's going to be. I think Neil Oliver's hit the nail on the head because I've just realised what it is now. It's like the private school people get sent off to private school and educated by the, whatever it is, the Oxford people in the woodwork, like the Harry Potter school. I think it's the Harry Potter school. It must be the Harry Potter school, I think. And unfortunately now, I'm just starting to think that maybe that is the whole problem behind it. But she's become richer than the Queen, hasn't she? That woman who wrote Harry Potter. Yet it's the private school people who have been educating all Boris Johnson and all the Tories, and Rees Mogg into this sinister corporate reality world, which we're very dubious about, because now they're wanting to. Then parents are not capable of educating the children, when they've sold the parents all the crap junk food that they've been making millions out of them for and with, it's just kind of ridiculous and ironic. And that's what Neil Oliver were pointing out, the incompetence of this government they believe that they are educated and mature enough to lead a country, make decisions, but then they want to take the children off the parents because the parents are competent or capable. Yeah, they've been selling the parents all the junk food that's made them weighing at a slob or whatever, and just ridiculous. It's like it is the blind leading the blind, but it's the problem with the government is they think that they're we are the morally respectable people. We are righteous. We are correct. And our way of life is the best. Well, to be honest, I don't think that is the way of life, because it's brand new as far as I know. You just fucking invented it. I mean, how can MI5 and MI6 say, well, we will not give up our way of life? Well, it's new. You want to just fucking trying to get these laws through now, you daft cunt. What were in the 1930s? That wasn't your way of life in the 1930s, because you've changed it all, right? So the next best thing, no, we won't sacrifice the next way of life, the next best thing that we're going to come up with. So basically, at the end of the day is, we're going to do this, we're going to do that, and, and we're not going to sacrifice it because, we are going to do what we want to do, So I'm saying, we never give up, right, so what was the way of life, when the gypsy travellers were going around in carts, whenever it was, in 1300s, right? So that was your way of life back then, because you were in charge, right? And then every single stage through history has been the way that you do things. So what's wrong with, gypsy travellers carrying on like they were doing then, when you said it was all right then? Well, no, now it's not all right. No, why? Because you don't want them to do it anymore. It's like, the next thing. So whatever Boris and Priti Patel are going to do is their way of life, even though we haven't done it yet. So how can it be the way of life now when it's not even into action? Oh, no, they want it to be the way of life. Well, we don't want it to be the way of life. We're quite happy with peaceful villages without aeroplanes flying over. I was about, right? Fuck off. I was about Boris and Priti Patel. Fuck off. Go away. I was about that. Why don't they just fuck off, Tories? Fuck off. Go somewhere else, which is what the Irish are saying. That is literally now what the Irish people are saying. Well, the ones who are addicted to the lottery and the whole other addiction culture, fast food, unhealthy things, the half of the Irish is still, not tainted that badly. It's just ridiculous, This, and now I've kind of had to go off topic. Might have to rewind now and kind of edit it off when I kind of went off on a tangent. I wanted to talk about this picture, and I was going to talk about some really interesting things to do with this picture, to do with, like, the motor car. I was going to talk about Ireland and England. I was going to talk about sort of telepathy and sensing shapes and different different shapes and things like that, from not only just on paper but from, I was going to talk about buildings, and we're going to talk about a lot of things to do with this picture, but I had to do some kind of background talking from it to go back to kind of the Algeria thing, and then you end up talking about human senses and vision, but then ultimately it's like the phone screen is kind of imprinting your vision as an example, and they kind of end up talking about fucking Zuckerberg, the cunt. So maybe I might just start fresh tomorrow and just I'll get straight into that picture because I know what I want to talk about and to do with it. Just like turning it round one way and the other. But I'll have to do it on the computer afterwards. And the cochlea as well. There's quite a few things. Oh yeah, actually I think that James Bond, I think that Casino Royale intro was meant to be kind of loosely based on this, but not with quite as much detail as well. What else? We don't even know whether it's legitimate or not, this book. Apparently it got stolen and ended up in the London place. We don't know if the pages got switched around or... So, I don't know. I don't know what they were doing with it. Because the time that this got stolen and ended up in London is... Well, not stolen, but apparently the guy took it over there, it turned out. It is around that time when getting towards the time when all that tower was going off with the Jubilee Tower, funnily enough. And... what else? Yeah, and everyone was on drugs as well. The late 1800s, I think it was the late 1800s, is when everyone was off their head on drugs because they hadn't made them all illegal yet. But there was just they'd learned how to make everything like cocaine and heroin, and everyone was off their heads on it. And that was just before it all got banned. And that's when this got stolen, or not stolen, but he ended up taking it over to London, and they didn't know that he'd taken it. And we don't know if they changed the pages or dicked around with it or forged some of it, because that's when that cauldron popped up as well, isn't it? That cauldron pops up as well. This gets nicked. Never mind Hitler being obsessed with the occult. I think it was, well, Mountbatten's from Germany anyway. The Mountbattens are from Germany anyway, weren't they? I think it wasn't just Hitler who was obsessed with the occult. I think it was the English Imperials as well. And I don't trust a damn thing that's dug up by any archaeologist now, because they've got, all you have to do is go plant something and then let the dog sniff the rabbit. Let the professor have a little sniff of this, professor, and then send him on the lead. Ruff, 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 ruff. Oh, someone says that something's been dug up in Bodmin Moor. Quick, let's go over there. Or something's popped up on my computer screen. I've seen a shit. I've got to check that out. Oh, got the professor dog on the trail now. You sent him over there. I'm not suggesting that that's every time, but it makes me wonder. Things being planted. I'm not suggesting that there's bluestones that Mike Parker went and found. That was really good, actually. I thought that was really, really good work. I hope that they are the legitimate places that they were in, and somebody didn't go and, what size are those stones? Oh, yeah, we'll just dig some footings out by Priscilla and make it look like that the original stone things were there. How hard can it be? Well, there's a Doctor Who set there. There's there, and then we'll prime this for Pearson when he goes over. I'm joking. I'm kind of joking there, but I do question everything. Question all the things, like all the artwork in Algeria. It would be cool if it was legitimate, but you just got to always have the possibility that it might not be. But I think I'll carry on with this picture tomorrow because there's quite a lot to talk about with it. I mean, even fistful of dynamite, even that fistful of dynamite, and he's holding the fist there, and when he's driving around in the car, and even the whole thing with the guys with the goggles on in the cars, were they having visions of this? Were they having ideas for motor vehicles and mechanical cars back then? And is that why the Irish liked the cars and why all the Tories liked the cars, because it features in this artwork? Or was this actually made, later and slipped in because someone did the cars and they wanted to make the old religion like cars? It's also got the bow and the archer as well. There's a lot going on with this. I wanted to talk about this picture because there's a lot of issues with it too, with the police and policemen and like hunting and the hunters and the speed camera, laser guns, cars. You could literally talk for a week about this picture, and that is what I wanted this conversation to be. I wanted this talk to be about this picture and why it's so important on so many levels, not only for religion and the psychedelics and for the ancient sites, all the different things for the ancient sites you can read into this, which fit to do with Ireland and England and the long barrows and, you know, and the psychedelics and you know, the pre-Christian religion. But then there are also other things as well into it as well, like the why guys like the motor cars and the motor racing and stuff like that, you know, and you know, there's a lot really. There's a lot to cover on this picture, and I just don't hear people talking about it openly, or if they do, I haven't been watching the right videos. I'll have a look, and what I'll do is I'll go onto YouTube tomorrow and I'll see what Book of Kells books there are, and we'll see if it's just Julia Farley having a little bit of a you know 3-minute talk about about it. But hinting at so much more. She's hinting so much more. There's Julia Farley talking about this, but she's, you know, she's a winking and nudging at so much more. There's so much more to unravel. There's so much more to uncompress. Uncompress those compressed computer files. You know, decompress them. Extract. Extract folder here. You know, it's a Julia Farley folder. Extract. Click on extract folder. You know. Have you got the decompression file? Like decompress. We can uncompress this this Book of Kells plate. Like, so yeah. I think I'll continue to talk tomorrow because like I've been going for over an hour now, and I went on a massive political tangent. But that's what happens, you know, and it's kind of unavoidable. I'm not very good at doing talks because I'm kind of like left-handed, and it once you if you go up the tree branch and you happen to just want to try and describe the whole tree, you end up going up one branch and then you just go, and then you never get to the top because you've just gone off to one side. And even though it's relevant and important in some way, it kind of you gotta kind of balance the conversation and keep it going in the right direction by including these other branches, but not too much, or it goes off too much to the side, and that's not one of my strengths because I end up thinking, well, they're all important, so like I've got to talk about this branch and then that one and that one and that one and that one, and then it'll just take forever, and then people won't understand what the whole thing is because you've just gone off to one side, filling that in too much. Which is why I've done all the videos really, because there's a lot to talk about to do with our site. And I wanted to get onto the sacrament and why this picture I think might have, if it is legitimate, why it might have information. Why would a book written in Ireland have information about a site in West Yorkshire or all the sites? Because the religious order travelled around and talked and retained the knowledge, and this clearly in the picture has retained some of the information and knowledge from the pre-Christian heritage, but people are saying, well, it's a Christian book, but they're putting. You've got to understand that they've actually put things in there to remember the other religion, and the only thing is that you've just got to be able to see it, you know. In fact, there's a strong case. I've actually been thinking that I don't think Bridget was a female deity, but a male one, because of the fact that an elongation is male, not female. Like a staff symbolises male, and the long barrows, and this being this way round with the long barrow structure shape, and with the bridge arm, and with the kind of little beard in the middle looking thing, it would kind of even be a representation of Bridget, you know. And then when you flip it around the other way, it's kind of like that Sununuros, and that was another one of the gods, you know. It might have all of the... This It could very well. They could have tried to fit all the different Celtic gods into one picture, and I bet I could, if you get me all the names of them, like that trickster god, because it is, in a way, the trickster god, right? If you look at it one way, it's one thing. If you look at it the other way, it's another thing. So that's what a trickster does. Different things, different ways. So with Lug, the trickster god, with Brigid, with the Cernunnos, and then, I don't know what... there's that Dana as well, isn't there? I've got a list of them. I just saved it the other day because I was quite interested in the names of them. So we've got all the names of them. I bet you, right, I can show you in this picture all of those main Celtic gods. I bet you 10... Well, I'll bet you now. Well, I'll bet you 50. I bet you 50 quid, right? I bet you 50 quid tomorrow. I'll get that list of those gods that I've just seen on that page. I bet you 50 quid. I can tell you every single one of those Celtic gods that are on that fucking website page in this picture. I bet you. So I've just kind of realised that now. It's got them all in. It's got all of the Celtic gods in there.